Now, I was reading some old history books that talked about the KKK being in this area, in the LA area in the 1920s and 30s. Um, did you ever hear of them being active in the 50s and 60s, or were these just other groups?
I never heard of no KKKs in that area. No, I didn't. Maybe they did exist, but I didn't see them.
Because cross burning is a
Well,
old
that's
school KKK activity.
I'm sure that's what they got that
Yeah.
from.
So we're talking about when this happened to Dr. Ross Miller. It's 1967.
Yeah.
And for those, I mean, 67 is really not a long time ago. You know, for some people it might, but it's really not that long ago for a cross burning to happen in your front yard, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
So what was his reaction to this?
So he was a very classy guy. I didn't talk to him about the cross building. You know, I became a cop in '68. So this happened a year before I was a cop.
Okay. So in the 1960s, you graduate from high school, what, late 50s or 60s?
61.
61, okay.
Right, I graduated.
And at this point, what are you thinking you want to do in life?
Well, I wanted to go to college, so I enrolled at Compton College, which at that time was a very, very nice college to go to. So I enrolled in Compton College, and I got a job at the Compton Drive-In, which was an extremely weak east side. It was the drive-in, and I was an usher, and I worked at the cashier box and the snack bar. And I had a girlfriend by the name of Pauline Brabant. Okay, and her parents had moved out of Compton because it was black. It was getting too black. So she says, well, I want you to meet my parents. She says, you know, she says, and she had told me that the reason that they had moved was because they lived in Downey, was because there was too many blacks moving into Compton. So I said, oh, I'm in trouble. So, you know, so she took me down to the house, and her mother started flirting with me. You know, they wanted to invite me for dinner, and they were very, you know. So I said, well, I guess I'm in, you know.
So this is East Compton.
Right.
And the movie theater was...
It was a drive-in.
I mean, the drive-in theater was mostly white patrons?
It was all white. And in fact, the guy that used to run it, he used to say this, okay? He says, if you don't work with vigor, you're going to be replaced by a nigger. That's what they used to tell us. Honest to God. That's the truth. I'll take a lie detector.
It's interesting. So this whole the whiteness of East Compton was really strong at that time.
Very strong.
But slowly, because of the opening up for the housing, they leave. And this is around the time you meet this girl, it's like almost the early stages of it leaving, right?
That was going on. It was going, actually, it's block by block. You know, that's how it was going on. Compton Drive-In, like I said, was I never saw a black car drive up when I was working and asked to come in. You know, this is 1961. It was all white. You know, and I have a couple of buddies of mine, in fact, that are on Facebook that were working with me. George Mango was one. He used to work the snack bar with me. We'd all get off work, we'd go down to the beach with all the popcorn and hot dogs that we didn't sell, and we'd have a surf party.
So then I guess shortly after this job, you decide to join the Marines?
Yeah, in '64, because I was going to Long Beach State, and I started going out with a lot of girls. I started hanging out at a lot of nightclubs. I was hanging out at the Cinnamon Cinder in North Hollywood, the Chez Paris in Hollywood, all these different clubs. I was dancing, you know, and my academics were becoming just completely. I was failing everything. In fact, I was going to school with a guy by the name of Steven Spielberg, who was going to Long Beach State at the time. We both left at the same time. He was in a class, one of the classes with me, I think, because I used to hear his name, and that was kind of a catchy name, Spielberg, you know. And yeah, him and I both left in '64. I heard he became a big-time director.
Yeah, I think he did some movies called what? Star something?
Oh, yeah.
What was that movie called?
Which one?
Star something. Steven Spielberg.
He doesn't even know.
No, because I actually played all those movies for them.
Oh.
From the first one to the more recent one. Even though his movies go backwards actually in time.
Right, yeah.
Star Wars.
Oh, Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to school with a guy that did all that.
Steven Spielberg. Now, you mentioned in 1965 there was a Mexican gang called Compton Largo. How many Mexican gangs were you aware of back then, and what were they like in the '60s?
They were Mexican gang, Latino gangs, let's say, okay? 'Cause
Okay.
a lot of them were Puerto Ricans in there, there was Salvadorians and so on. And so anyway, the thing was that the Mexican or Latino gangs were concentrated in the north side of Compton, by the county, by Largo Street. That was the divider. Mona Street was actually the divider between the north side of Compton and going into the east side of Compton. So the Latino gangs were concentrated in that effort, and they never made any effort to move into the white area. The Latinos were happy living in their own community. They had their own church, their own food. You know how Latinos are. You know, they didn't want to move in with the whites. And so they stayed in the north end of Compton, but they had their gangs there. They had Largo 36, again, the 36 standing for the third letter and the sixth letter of the alphabet. The third letter being Compton, C, and the F standing for firma, the Compton signature, right? That's how they did those things. And they formed, the Largo gang formed because the 155 gang was so strong that was on Central Avenue. They were 155th Street. They were only a few blocks from where I grew. You know, I was 136. But the divider Rosecrans was like day and night.
So 155, I think their neighborhood is by the airport.
Right by the airport, exactly.
So they were out when you were growing up?
Yeah, they were an old gang. They were there. They used to all go to St. Albert's Church, which was on Compton Boulevard. And it was actually by Campanella Park. So all those kids that grew up on 155th Street, they all went to that particular church.
And there was also the flats, Compton Latino flats,
right,
or tortilla flats, they called it.
And that was in the county, though. They weren't actually in the city, because you know Compton had a lot of county strips in the gerrymandered. They were in Compton. They had a Compton mailing address, but they were actually in the county.
And then were they around where the Largos were? Thanks for watching StreetTV.net. If you're not subscribed, please hit that button below and click the bell to receive alerts and notifications. Feel free to comment below so you can give us your feedback, and be sure to watch the 2 related episodes to the right. If you want to support this platform or follow us on social media, visit the links in the description, and thanks for watching StreetTV.net.